Well, Allie Renison is a former UK Trade Department official. Great to have you on Global Business Europe. So what, for you, really stands out from here? Which of these measures really count?
I think the most important measure really is the part about sort of export controls that China has now placed, not just on drones, but drone components and associated technologies. So obviously it's sort of added in sort of like-for-like countermeasures around placing some U.S. companies on sort of similar bans in the way that the U.S. has done with Chinese companies. However, I think the biggest takeaway is really the dangling of the fact that they're saying basically if you want to take these kind of measures against our companies, we can kind of hit you more where it hurts, because there are quite a few drone manufacturers in both the US and across the West who rely on components from China.
Now, this came just days after what both sides had called a constructive call. Is the real story here that the timing as much as the measures themselves?
I think they're both fairly important. We've seen this pattern of escalation sometimes on either end, not only as sort of a meeting between the two leaders of both countries, but also around sort of big calls. And I think that there is some testing of the waters and escalation in terms of creating leverage, because we may see some meeting between the heads of state in the future, and that provides a pretext for, I think, potential de-escalation.
You talked about we might see the two leaders meeting, and that there has been talk of Xi and Trump meeting in person soon. Do you think this kind of exchange actually threatens it, or is it just the two sides sort of jockeying for position before they sit down?
I think there's some substantive concerns, particularly from China's end, that they want addressed in terms of they don't like this sort of up and down bumpy ride that they see. They want some consistency. However, we've also seen this happen before, where measures are escalated and then through a summit between President Xi and President Trump, they're effectively de-escalated. So jockeying for position is certainly part of it.
There's this one phrase that both sides keep using, strategic stability, even while they're trading sanctions. What would it actually take to make that kind of language meaningful?
I think that if you had, certainly we've seen the relations between Scott Bessent, the sort of Treasury Secretary, and his sort of counterpart in the Chinese government meeting to try and resolve some of these sensitive issues through dialogue. I think what China is perhaps looking more from is to have a sense of an overarching approach to relations with China on trade that don't mean that even when you have a summit that de-escalates, you then get different parts of the United States government and regulators coming in and sort of whacking bans on sort of Chinese companies, here, there, and everywhere. I think they want to see, we do know that the U.S.-China Board of Trade idea that was proposed at the last summit between the leaders, that is meant to try and deal with some of these issues, but it's not going to tackle the really sensitive issues. So I think they want some stability in how both President Trump approaches China and the rest of the U.S. government does as well.
Allie Renison, thank you very much indeed.